Hey guys, GHAZZY TV here with another Path of Exile video. In this one, I wanted to talk about the Shopify-sponsored Zizaran Class Gauntlet race. Now, Zizaran has been hosting a previous Gauntlet race with Shopify as well, with some juicy rewards. The previous one was called the Racing Gauntlet, and there was some pretty juicy giveaways, a nice gaming chair, some PlayStation, Xbox, RTX for 3090. There's a bunch of different stuff they had back in that one. And we have juicy rewards in the Class Gauntlet as well. So I guess we start with explaining what the hell the Gauntlet race actually is. It is basically one of the hardest types of races we've seen in the community, where they enable every hard modifier that you can think of. The enemies are going to have a bunch of extra projectiles. They're going to be super tanky, super fast. And the players get reduction of resistances when you start playing. This means that encounters like Hillock, encounters like the Mervale fight in Act 1, as well as the one that's going to reap the most corpses, the Weaver in Act 2, as well as other hard encounters such as Dodre, both in Act 4, as well as the Dodre Cesspool, is going to be very rippy encounters. And it's a very fun race event, which can last for, I think, about 10 days. They have reduced the amount of resistances dropped for the players by, I think it's like minus 20% in this run compared to the last race. It's slightly easier. And so I wanted to talk about this race and what it is, because of a lot of people that want to participate. A lot of them will be going in for the specific rewards and whatnot, which I'll talk about. Like, if we have level 90, you can actually get a $2,000 computer build. Level 80, there's a random draw for a monitor. Level 70 is a headset. 60 for a microphone. This sweet-ass merchandise from Zizaran's Class Gauntlet race was actually pretty cool. This shirt is actually really nice. And a bunch of stuff provided by Path of Exile as well in terms of MTXs. So it's a really cool race in terms of rewards. You don't have to be trying to go for the money prices, which is going to be based off the fundraising that people are doing. And basically you have percent of the fundraising will be won by top witches, the fifth of each class, up to top 5 of each classes. So it's pretty cool. But if you don't feel like racing, or you're not good enough to race, you can still participate and have a lot of fun. It's a very challenging event, and you're able to get a random draw for any of these wins. Myself, I haven't raced in 2 years now, so I will most likely be taking it pretty chill, and my goal will be to reach level 90. That is my plan, at least, to do this. It's going to be pretty fun, I think. I actually enjoy the challenge. I've been missing playing hardcore. And so this video, I'm going to talk about different approaches to the Class Gauntlet, to this Class Gauntlet race. So now that you know what the Class Gauntlet is, to some degree, you can also check Zizarans.com/classgauntlet. My suggestion for this is to set a goal. Set a goal for what you want to do. For example, if you're looking to win a certain prize, for example, if you want to get the sweet-ass shirt, you can get your character up to level 50, and that's it. That's all you need to do. Just get your character up to level 50. Or if you want to go like me, I'm going to strive to get to level 90, because then I'm eligible to win anything here. That's my goal. So my goal is to reach level 90. So once you've decided on a specific goal, then you will have to be in a position where you decide a build that will be able to achieve and fulfill the purpose of reaching that goal. So with this in mind, I wanted to talk about some different builds that I would suggest to reaching certain goals. In my case, I want to go for level 90. So the builds that I'm going to talk about are known in the community, and there are build guides all over the community from myself and from other content creators that can reach these goals. So if we take level 90 being the purpose of reaching level 90, I can definitely recommend playing the Blade Assassin. I'm going to try that one more time. Blade Blast, Blade Fall Assassin. I have a guide myself. I know there's plenty of other build guide creators or content creators here in the community that has build guides for this. It is one of the strongest League starter builds you can do. It works very well in hard, tough races like this. It can be a little bit daunting in terms of playstyle because it's very unique to it. However, it can also be a little bit squishy, but the build thrives on speed. So if you want to push this quickly, and you can then, once you get through the harder encounters of the actual acts, because that's one of the most challenging parts of it, then you can literally decide to farm easier maps. Like once you start doing maps, just do the lower tier maps and level yourself up in a safe manner without risking having too high of a risk of dying by rolling cheap, simple maps to get the experience. That would be my suggestion if that's your goal. It's going to take a little bit longer than if you did higher tier maps, but it will also be safer, because if you die, since it's hardcore, have to start over. Another build that I would suggest, which is probably what I'm going to be playing, because I'm not a big fan of the playstyle of BBBF, and I didn't like playing it that much, it is the Cold Slinger or the Self-Cast Vortex. Now, the Cold Slinger version is normally better when it comes to leveling through the acts, because it's a lot smoother to play with. It's not as tanky until you get the proper gear for the end game. And I think that the Self-Cast Vortex approach is more reliable in terms of defense once you get to mapping, because the Cold Slinger will need some investment to handle bosses, whereas the Self-Cast Vortex don't really need to care about that too much. But the Cold Slinger version works very, very fine when it comes to leveling through the acts. So my plan is most likely to do that, and then I will start to gather CI gear and go Energy Shield later on, and basically thrive on the defensive gains I get from that. And I'll most likely run with defensive curses, all designed to make sure that I'm as safe as I can get with the build, as I want to stay alive till I get to level 90. Then obviously we have the Mega Bonk Impale thingy-thangy builds. There's plenty of them. It's the Slam build. We have the Shatter Steel stuff. There's so many different type of melee builds that you can do. I know Cyclone would work as well. So what I would recommend is finding a build guide that has been proven to work fine when it comes to hardcore races like this. A lot of them works very fine. It's just about finding a build guide that works for it. I'm not a big fan of this, so I'm not going to go into much depth of this. Melee god in the community would be Don the Crown, I guess. And we have plenty of other content creators that is doing this as well. Yes, the league is solo self-found hardcore. When it comes to more in line with what I like to play, that's casters mainly, and some minion builds as well. We have the discussion between Popcorn SRS versus Hitting SRS. And SRS is to summon Raging Spirits. Popcorn SRS is basically when you spec minion instability. Minion instability requires the minion to go down to low life, which you are when you have lower than 35% of your max HP. Not dead, but below 35% HP, then the minion will explode, dealing damage. This is a very solid way to burst bosses, and that's potentially something I'll actually level with. I haven't really decided how I'm going to play, if I'm going to do Cold Slinger or SRS. The problem with SRS, though, is that I always prefer doing the hitting version, where the SRS is supposed to hit the enemies, because you can reach very reliable and higher damage output than the Popcorn. The problem is that if anything kills the SRSs, then you have no damage. And since they don't take any aggro, they only take damage from collateral splash effects or stray projectiles, which they're going to be a lot of in this race. There's a risk that your minions will die before they even get a chance to do any damage. So I do believe that if you do SRS, the Popcorn SRS will be better, because of the fact that they will take damage quite regularly in this type of content. And therefore, I would actually argue for Popcorn to be better in this specific race compared to a non-gauntlet race. We have the Bleed Boglad. I do not have a guide for this. I do have a guide for the SRS, though. I don't have a guide for Bleed Boglad. However, it has been a very prominent League starter build and a very effective build to play in races like this. So if that's something you enjoy doing, you can definitely do that. Because it's a lot about just shooting out your arrows and then dodging the enemies. And it's very fast in that sense. And because the fact is that it works like a dot build, where you shoot your dots out, in this case your arrows, to create a bleeding effect on the enemies, and then you have all the time in the world to dodge enemy mechanics till the enemy's dead. That's why a build like this works very well in a race like this. Obviously, we have the Detonate Dead, Necro versus Inquisitor. I would argue for the Necromancer to be better. I do not have a guide for this. I personally believe that the Necromancer is better based on what I've seen, and number-wise and defensive-wise, because of the way you can scale it. So I think that DD Necro is really cool. However, in a race like this, I don't think I would dare to do any harvest encounters, to be fair, until very, very late game. So a DD Necro does thrive quite well on having the harvest encounter specters for the base HP that they provide, which is extremely, extremely good. But that's my personal take on it. I personally would do the Necromancer, but I'm not sure if I would play DD Necro myself in a race like this, but I know that it works very well if that's something you enjoy. Speaking of this, I do want to take a small break here and do mention that when you play a hardcore league, it is very important that you play a build that you're comfortable with, that you know what to do, so that you know before you encounter a situation where the next thing I'm going to do is very risky for my character and might actually die. So you know that you're going to encounter that you're doing a risky encounter, rather than going in, dying, and be like, oh, that content was hard for me. So playing something that you were experienced with is very crucial. And that emphasizes even more when it comes to solo self-found, because you're going to have to fix whatever you can with what you have, and not something you can purchase to do an easy fix like we do in trade leagues. So when you play, make sure that you either have tested these builds out. There's the test race you can go into and practice. Try it out in the trade league if you want to, and basically get a feeling for the builds depending on what your purpose is and what your goal is. Another build to play is obviously the Toxic Rain. Toxic Rain is always great. Super, super, super effective build to play. I don't have a guide for this myself. Works very fine. Speaking of Toxic Rain, you can also do Toxic Rain Miner. Pretty much all the mine builds will work. You can do whatever you want with mines, and it will most likely work. Purifying Flame, Ball Lightning, you know, Arc, I don't care. Like any mines will work very, very, very well. One of the best things with miner builds is obviously that you can throw mines into a room by standing on the side of it, so you don't even aggro the enemies, but your mines will shoot and kill everything inside the room. So there's so many ways for the miner to play in a very safe way. And something that the miner builds are doing very well is killing bosses before they get to do anything because of the massive amount of damage that they can pull. A build that I do have a guide for is actually the Chaos Dot build. And that is something I think would be really, really good. Chaos Slinging allows you to level very, very fast with the axe. It's not as fast as the BF-BB Poison approach, but, sorry, BB-BF Assassin with the Poison or non-Poison. Poison depends on how you want to play it. But the Chaos Slinger does work very well for leveling. It's very smooth. And then you can respec that into not doing Chaos Slinging when you get higher level, where it's better to basically go Bane or Essence Drain or Contagion, depending on how you want to play it. There's so many different things you can do with Chaos Dot builds, but that will work very well for the end game in that race like this as well. And then obviously we got two more minion builds. I do have a guide for the Golemancer. Golemancer is always going to be strong. You are able to farm the primordial jewels, however, that is farmed in the later stages of the game. Because if you look at the primordial, and remove the chain, and go for the primordial divination card, it drops in maps. You have to go to maps to farm this card. On the other hand, if you do decide to farm these maps, you can get the cards to get the jewels. However, if you're farming maps with the build, you're already at a point where the build is, you're able to farm to whatever level you want without the jewels. So it's up to you how you want to play it, but it's definitely a build that will work. It's very easy to gear. It's very easy to even chance orb the weapons for it, and they're very commonly dropped, so it wouldn't surprise me if people drop them very easily. You also have the ritual part, so you can do that, trying to get them from there. So there's so many ways for you to get the gear for the Golemancer and do that very well. And then obviously, last but not least, I do not want to play the DB hop build because I feel like I really don't want to play a build that is up in the faces of the enemies. I want to stay away from them the best I can until I have high gear. So I'm not sure how I like the DB, but the DB build is a very, very strong in a league like this because the minions you take over, they have modifiers. They do not get over to your minions. Just keep that in mind. But the minions you take over are very tanky and does very well, especially in leagues like this where you need to play it safely and a slightly a bit slower than normal if you're not too comfortable, like the good hardcore races we have in our community. That's basically all I wanted to say to you and the league start suggestions for this race. So just a quick recap. Make sure that you understand what the league is. Make sure you choose a build that will fulfill the purpose of that goal that you set. For me, it's level 90, so I'll be picking a build that I'm comfortable with to reach level 90. What does DB hop in? DB is Dominating Blow, and Hop is Herald of Purity. It's the Herald aura. It's basically minions. So basically, you want to decide a build that works for the purpose of your goals, and make sure that you're comfortable with that build. And then basically decide on a build. Here's some suggestions. I'm sure the other content creators have or will be posting some league start suggestions for this league as well. These were my suggestions. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe for more content. Until next time, boys. Stay safe. Keep rocking.